Hi students. Here we start discussing science of 9th standard CBSE and we start with the very first chapter, matter in our surroundings. Okay. So the see while discussing this chapter, our approach is like this. We go through the textual matter and convert all the ideas into a question answer type pattern. So I will introduce the question and discuss the answer, and if we merge together all these answers, that will be the total content of the textbook. That's the approach. Okay, so we start with the very first question. What is matter? Because the very subject is matter in our surroundings. Okay, see, we know it's a well-known statement that matter, anything that has mass and occupy space is matter. Anything that has mass and occupies space is matter. Simple, no? Okay, we know the things around us appear mostly in three forms: solids, liquids and gases, and all these three forms have definite mass as well as their own volumes. So we can conclude that anything that has mass and requires volume, a part of the space that's called volume, to stand is matter. Okay, they are the scientists of that time. Sage's classification, how they classified, they said that all the matter in nature, whether living or non-living, is composed of 5 elements of nature. 5 elements of nature, and they were earth, bhu, water, up in Sanskrit, air, vayu, fire, agni, space, akash. Earth, water, air, fire and space. That's not a highly scientific classification. They classified as they see matter around us, not the molecular level, atomic level. No such a study is there, but they classified it as this. We know it is not much scientific because we know all liquids are not water. For example, all liquids are not water. Okay, and see, we can remember these 5 by connecting them with the material classification of the day. See, earth can be considered to be the solid part, water can be considered to be the liquid part, air can be considered to be the gaseous part, the physical classification of matter, along with the fire representing energy and space representing space or akash representing the very space itself. So we can, to memorize, we can connect them like this. I didn't mean that they meant like that. I am connecting the traditional classification of ancient time with the present classification. Okay, so please remember, earth, water, air, fire and space is the 5 elements that make up all living and non-living things they knew to be present in nature. Okay, see, next I am talking about an experiment, and from that experiment, what all conclusions we can deduce? This is the question. See, we take a beaker of water, okay, a definite amount of water, and say we add either some sugar, somewhat this much amount of sugar, or sodium chloride, common salt, okay, to that. See, as soon as we and mark the water level, if we add somewhat a good heap into the water, see, immediately there can be a slight increase in the level of water to accommodate the volume of the sugar or common salt we have added. Then stir it for a while until the whole added sugar or common salt dissolves. Then again mark, see, you have to mark this level, and after shaking, once the whole of the sugar or common salt has gone into the solution, you again mark the level. See, once you add the sugar or common salt, there is a if you add sufficient amount, if you add a very small amount, there will not be any appreciable change in the level of the water. But if you add a sufficient amount, you will see there is a appreciable increase or measurable increase in the height of the water level. Okay. Then after stirring and dissolving the whole thing, you again mark the level. Then you see that the level has somewhat gone down, but may not have reached the original level. That is, it is below this and also below above this level. Okay. So what you can conclude from these observations? Our conclusions comes like this. See, sugar, the crystals of sugar must be composed of very tiny particles, and which goes into water and gets separated and spreading all around. So one conclusion we come into is that the added sugar is composed of very tiny particles which can merge with the water. Okay. While doing so, a slight volume increase is expected for the water level. That's why water level is going high. See, as soon as we add the sugar, there is a appreciable increase in the water level. Okay, because the crystals occupy a definite volume. But once the crystal particles separate and go into solution, the level is coming down. So after a while of thinking, we come to the conclusion that there must be invisible space among the water molecule into which the smaller sugar particles get accommodated, so that not as much as the volume as that of the sugar crystal it requires once it goes into the solution. So the volume comes down. It is well packed. After the mixing process is complete, there is not as much increase as in the initial state of adding the common salt or sugar, because they can most of the molecule can get accommodated into the space which is not visible to us, space among the water molecule or the liquid molecule in the solution. So we come to the conclusion that even in solid, first conclusion is this: solid or any matter is composed of tiny particles, and these tiny particles can go mutually into one another, okay, into the space among these particles. So we come to the next conclusion that matter, be it solid, liquid or even gas, there is much space among the molecules which is not directly perceivable to human eye. Even in, of course, in gases it is perceivable, but in liquids and solids it may not be perceivable, but can be proven through such an experiment. Both the liquid and solid is having space among them, and this can be used for the mixing process. Okay, you understood it. Okay. In the next experiment, we take some crystals of potassium permanganate, which is it is very dark, nearly black colored in the crystal form. But if we dissolve it in small amount of water, you get a deep purple colored solution. Okay. Now we take say 90 ml water here, 90 ml like that. Okay. Then what you do? See, take this 10 ml deep purple colored potassium permanganate solution into the first beaker, so that the net volume reaches 100. 90 plus 10. We are adding 10 ml of this kml of a solution and stir it well. The whole solution will still remain deeply purple here. Maybe less than that in the test tube because it is diluted. Still it will be dark purple. Okay. Now you once it is well stirred up, you take another 10 ml from this and pour it into this 90 ml of clear water. Okay. Here also the solution would turn purple, but not as dark as in this case. Okay. Okay. Once this is well stirred and the mixing process is complete, you take another 10 and pass it on to the next 90 ml pure water. You will see that also turned purple, but still less dark than or deep in color than this solution. You can continue it for several times until you reach a state where the purple color is very difficult to perceive, but still it will be there. Okay, still it will be there. Okay, a photometric instrument can detect that color even though our eyes may fail. Okay, so what is the idea conveyed through this experiment? This is the idea conveyed through this experiment. This potassium permanganate crystals consists of large number of molecules, and when it is spread all over the solution, in that case where the number of molecules is extremely high, the solution retains the deep purple color. But when you dilute it over, when you transferred it over here, whereby it is diluted nearly 10 times, due to that decrease in the number of molecule per unit volume, there is a lessening of the color. The color becomes less dark. You are continuing the process for several times, still there remains purple color but in a diminishing manner. This suggests that even after several times of dilution, the solution has this potassium permanganate molecule. That means this crystal of potassium permanganate we have started with contains huge number of molecules that even after several stages of dilution, the solution retains the purple color, even though to diminishing extents. You got that? So our main scientific conclusion is that even a small crystal of a substance, not only potassium permanganate, consists of large number of molecules. Instead of instead of potassium permanganate, if you repeat the experiment with the sugar, okay, the first solution will be very sweet. The second will continue to be sweet but less than the first one. Third will be still sweet. And similarly, you can repeat with the taste experimentation of the same idea that even small crystals, small cubes consist of huge number of molecules. That's why even after several stages of dilution, the water tastes sweet. Okay, you can even olfactory test also. How you add one test tube full of start with the fresh water, of course. You add one test tube full of Dettol, which is having its own characteristic smell. You know, you smell it. You feel the deep smell of it. Sharp smell of it. I don't say harsh, it is sharp smell. You add 10 ml over here after stirring well, and again stir here for several seconds, and again smell the solution. That's the only thing you have to do. You will feel the same smell but less than from here. You repeat it several times. You will see that after several stages of dilution, it's still having the smell of Dettol. Okay, again this also through smell proves that a solid or liquid consists of huge number of particles. Later it was called molecule. For the time being we say particles of that particular substance. Okay, hope you have understood that well. Okay, next question is, what is diffusion? See, the whole experiments I have mentioned here involved diffusion. What is diffusion? Diffusion is the process of intermixing of particles of two different substances, whether they are solid state, both solid or liquid or gas, or one solid, one liquid, one solid, one gas. All these are instances of diffusion. Diffusion is the spontaneous mixing of particles or molecules of two or more substances. Okay, so what is the requirement that two things diffuse? The requirement is that the diffusing substances must have interparticle spaces into which particles of the other substance can enter into. Okay, so that they can freely get mixed up. it is spontaneous, that it happens by itself. If you stir it, of course it will be speeded up. The process diffusion will be speeded up. If you heat, the process of diffusion will be speeded up. But even otherwise, it happens spontaneously. Maybe it is slow or fast. So that is diffusion. Intermixing of the particles or rather molecules of two substances is called diffusion. Okay, how it happens? It happens through the movement of molecules, movement of the particles. Diffusion happens through the movement of particles into one another. Hope you understood that. Okay. See, if you keep some incense sticks at the room corner of your room and sit there, you may have you may experience if that incense sticks are quite good, you may experience a faint smell of that incense from that incense stick. Okay, why it happens? Because the incense sticks carry certain volatile liquids offering this smell. Okay, it can trigger some cells within our nostrils, and some messages are sent to the brain, and then we experience that fragrance. Okay, but if instead of simply keeping that incense sticks there, if you light them up, then the smell reaches you very fast, and now it is more intense. Why? Because burning of the incense sticks helps that liquid which offers the smell to vaporize faster and to diffuse into the air all around, so that it can reach your nostrils very fast. That's why in such a case you experience the smell more faster and more intense. Hope you understood. Okay.